But I want to talk about how our real estate market locally looks right now and how these issues, these headwinds that we are now facing are impacting our market. And of course, not just here, but nationally. I mean, you think about all the different areas of the country where, they're largely resort-based communities. I mean, I mastermind with some of the top agents in the country, all over the country. There's a guy out of Vail that he's lost an incredible amount of business over the past 2 weeks because people are starting to take a step back. They're saying, hey, you know what? We're going to hold off. We're going to see how things play out over the next 30, 60, 90 days. And then, we'll go from there. Maybe there's some opportunity. Maybe we won't catch a falling sword. And of course, a lot of that is fear-based, and it's not our jobs as real estate agents to say, well, you're being ridiculous, just buy something. I mean, that's obviously never a good tactic. Number one way to push people away is to have commission breath. And I think you're going to start to see, unfortunately, quite a bit of that as real estate agents. And this is me just being completely honest and upfront with you guys. Obviously, our income is derived from our ability to sell homes to people or sell people on a specific home if we're working with them as a buyer or a seller. And of course, it's not really us doing the proactive selling to people to convince them to buy something or to convince them to sell something. It's to match up the right house with the right buyer or to find the right buyer for a house we're representing. But as this issue continues, you're going to start to see, in my opinion, some real estate agents that just leave the market. They're going to see the financial impact of people deciding to wait. And for a lot of people that only do a few transactions a year, if you go from 6 deals a year down to 3, I mean, you're out of business, really. There are a bunch of agents out there that just don't make enough money in real estate for this to be their full-time gig. A lot of people are part-time. We've got over 7,000 agents in our market. To be in the top 10% of agents, you have to do 17 deals a year. So the vast majority of our market is doing less than a deal a month. And I'm just here to tell you, it's tough to make a living in real estate doing less than a deal a month. So you'll see people starting to back down on their marketing budget. You'll see people that just get out of the business because they're already kind of hanging on by a thread. And then as their sales wane a little bit, they'll just say, okay, I'm out. And so for the folks that have been in it for a long time, I think they're going to weather the storm and everything will be fine. But I think there are some elements here that we haven't really, as a show or even as a market, taken into consideration yet. But let's just talk about where we are right now. Let's just go over some key numbers here based on February and year to date compared to this time last year. I mean, if you look at what we've been talking about on this program for years now is inventory. At the end of February, we were at 2.9 months supply of inventory. That's down almost 30% from this time last year, where we had seen a big drop in inventory then. I mean, right now we've got a little under 4,700 homes available for sale. This time last year, we were at over 6,000. So that's a drop of 23%. So we've got less homes available to purchase. And on top of that, pending transactions, meaning homes that are now under contract and getting ready to close, are up 30% year to date. If you look at February of this year compared to February of last year, we're up 34%. So essentially we have sold an extra 800 homes, put an extra 800 homes under contract so far this year. And we've already closed 250 more homes than we did last year as of the end of February, which is up 12%. And so we're just creating more of the same, right? We are crippled as a market with a lack of inventory, which is causing people to either wait for more inventory to hit the market, or just say, hey, I can't find what I want to move into, so I'm just going to stay. And maybe I refinance and I take out a home equity line of credit and I do some things to my own house to just make it more livable and to just do the things to the house that I want in a new house. And that's evidenced by the fact that with everything going on in our market right now, with stocks dropping, which stings, and it hurts me too, guys. I've got an investment account and I don't like seeing the percentage that is dropped by. I won't say the number, but it's a lot and it hurts. But I'm also not selling anytime soon, and that's my retirement account, and I ain't retiring anytime soon. And what goes up must come down and vice versa. But if you look at refinances, we hit the highest level in over a decade last week. They were up 79% week over week. And if you and it's up 480% compared to this time last year, where we still had some great interest rates. So the Mortgage Bankers Association has increased their refinance projection by 37%, but only 6% for new mortgages, for purchase-related mortgages. And so here's one of the impacts that has had on not just our market, but markets across the country. Lenders are busy. They are busier than they've ever been. And as a result of that, appraisers are overworked, and they just don't have the bandwidth to get to all of these appraisals that are necessary for all these refinances. So what they're doing is they are literally rejecting appraisal orders. And in some instances, because I've seen the emails and I've seen the evidence of it, an appraiser is saying, no, I'm not going to do that appraisal within that time frame. However, I will do it for, $100 more and for an extra 2-week period. And so we're now seeing some delays in closing. So if you're out there and you're thinking about buying a house, or if you're selling a house, that's one of the things that we need to be in tune with and aware of. If we put a home under contract and that buyer wants to close in 30 days and they're getting a mortgage, probably a very slim chance of that happening, because there are just things that are outside of our control. But we need to be aware of that so that somebody that's selling their house that, gets through kind of the inspection phase, but that still has to wait for the buyer to obtain financing and get an appraisal and do a termite and moisture inspection report, which is called a CL100. All those things come into play that could potentially derail a closing. And so part of our responsibility as agents is to inform our clients as to when we feel it's appropriate for them to start packing up and making some serious plans to move. I think people that are negligent in that process end up causing some serious harm because they don't inform their clients. They don't keep them up to date. They let them know what's happening throughout the process as it relates to, okay, well, next Friday we've got the inspection. And then, after that, we're just waiting for the appraisal and this and that to go through. But they're not being specific enough about, hey, don't start packing up your house yet. Don't put a security deposit down on a place to rent until I give you the green light. And I've had several sellers that we've worked with that were previously on the market with other agents, and maybe they went under contract and that deal didn't happen. And it's never fun when that happens, of course. That's a very trying time for a lot of people. But I think some of that stress could be avoided by having more realistic expectations and by being in better communication with people as it relates to the process from when a home goes under contract until the time that it closes. So that's a real impact as a result of all these refinances, which is a result of interest rates dropping, which was a result of the stock market, which, of course, you could connect that with the coronavirus and all that stuff. But that's kind of where we stand right now. But here's the other, really interesting news is that the median sales price is up 9% year to date from this time last year. We're at $290,000 market wide as the median sales price. Last year, we were at $266,000. It's actually up 11% month over month. And so again, just kind of going back to this inventory issue, a lot of people are just kind of sitting back and waiting and watching the events unfold. And I don't blame them for that. I'm not here to downplay the seriousness of everything that's happening right now. I'm a little freaked out about it myself, truth be told. I've got a sister that works at a Nova hospital in Virginia, who's been sending me some very interesting information that's being circulated within the hospital, the staff and faculty within that hospital, and so I've got a great, I think, grip on how serious this issue is, quite honestly. But what's happening, kind of in the short term, is that as people wait, it prevents us from getting more inventory on the market. I don't think a lot of people are at the point yet where this has become an issue that then causes people to put their home on the market and sell it. Now, if things get bad enough economically for people, then yeah, they might start selling their second homes, which are usually the first thing to go. It usually hits the luxury and vacation rental and, just resort style properties first. And then, yeah, there's a little bit of a trickle down effect to get into the lower price ranges, but not much. I mean, the reality is this. If you look at like Somerville, under $300,000, you couldn't tell we were going through any of this stuff because that market's not impacted by it. It is so seller driven. Inventory is low. Buyer demand is through the roof. They're not having any problem whatsoever selling those properties. And we really haven't seen that across the board yet at all. Now what we're facing is just indecision based on fear of the unknown. And that's a real thing. And so that then affects consumer confidence. And as it continues to affect consumer confidence, it will then have a direct effect on the trends that we follow within our local real estate market. And so if you look at the inventory, I mean, we're at 4,600-ish homes available for sale. Just as a reminder, in 2007, we had over 12,000. A decade ago, we had, 11,000 properties available for sale. We've got less than half of that now. And so the month's supply of inventory really has been incredible. When we went from 3.7 months supply of inventory in 2018 to 4.1 months supply of inventory in 2019, which was up 10%, but then it dropped down to 2.9 here the first 2 months of 2020, which is down almost 30%. So we have had inventory under 8 months supply for going on 8 years now, almost. That's how long we've been in a seller's market. And of course, we've seen the benefit in the form of price appreciation from that. But we still need more inventory in order to get some of those people that maybe want to sell the home that they purchased as a first-time home buyer to move into something more expensive. And of course, you're going to see people that are going to start to move away from stocks and bonds and all of those investment-style funds and put their money into something more safe, which is real estate. And so there are so many different things going on here, guys, that honestly, I don't want to step outside my wheelhouse because I know real estate like the back of my hand. And I know that there are some serious implications likely yet to be determined with everything that we're experiencing right now. But that's kind of what's happening in the short term. We're backlogged with appraisals. Mortgage lenders and loan officers are incredibly busy, which is delaying that process a little bit. And all of that those are just things that need to be taken into account, right? It just affects the timeline from the time something goes under contract until the time it sells. But if you're not aware of it, you could be setting yourselves up for failure. You just need to be aware of that. And then, of course, this whole inventory issue is a problem. And if you guys hopefully took my advice last show and spoke with your mortgage provider about refinancing, those rates have jumped back up a little bit. They're not quite as good as they were last week, or even the beginning of this week. So things just to take into consideration. Obviously, with this show, I try to inform you guys on what's happening in this market, both locally, regionally, and nationally. And I'm just here to tell you that there are going to be some things that are going to unfold here that we have not been used to, that we don't know yet. So I guess be careful of your decision-making. If you need to move, you need to move. You're moving to Charleston to start a new job and you want to buy something rather than rent something. I still think it's a great time to buy. You get low interest rates. You're going to pay an arm and a leg for rent because they certainly, in most instances, it's more expensive to rent than it is to buy. That's truth be told. Rental rates are just higher than the cost of home ownership. How long will these interest rates stay here? I don't know. We're talking about we're hearing some stabilization-based news, but it could be months before we see interest rates start to climb back up a little bit. We really don't know. So what we know is what we can control, and that's right now, and that's taking this information into consideration, planning for it, and then also making sure that you've got some nest eggs built up. I think there will be some unfortunate circumstances and situations in which you're going to need to tap into some of that emergency fund savings that you've been holding on to. And the other issue is, which I haven't really gotten to, is the fact that contractors are so darn busy. I mean, with all these refinances and people pulling equity out of their house to renovate their house, that ties up contractors. And here's the thing you have to know about contractors, and then we're going to take a quick break. But contractors instinctively are kind of trained to say yes to any opportunity because of the fear of you not then calling them the next time you need something from them. So they're almost always going to say, yes, I'm interested in taking on your project, regardless of how overwhelmed they are with current business. And we're getting a lot of people that have said, hey, I talked to my contractor and he was supposed to come by and he got tied up. And, this project that I was hoping was going to take 2 weeks is now 2 months in and they haven't even started yet. So if you need some contacts, some people that Maybe you want to start preparing your home for sale. You have some repairs that you need to make. We've got excellent contacts. We've been in touch with all of them recently because we have a lot of people that need help right now. And yes, they are busy, but they do great work at affordable prices and they're reliable. And when they say something and they give you a timeline, they're going to stick to it. And that's important to me and it's important to you, I know. So if that's something we can help you with, you're thinking about preparing your home for sale, you want to buy something, you're looking at investment opportunity, please give me a call. My number is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or visit our website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. And stick around for